Today, we're going to talk about the curve in the neck, which is also called the arc of life, but how it is absolutely involved in the shoulder. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did Picasso do this? No, this is a representation of the shoulder. Da Vinci. So when we look at it, this bone here is the humerus. It's held in a socket by muscles called rotators. The key with the rotators is if any of those muscles get weak, the shoulder in a normal position, okay, is working correctly. That also means that the labrum, the socket that holds it, is in a normal shape. Now, if any of those muscles get weak, and they figure this is why it's called a double crush injury. You compromise the nerves in the neck because the nerves that supply the entire shoulder come out of the base of the neck. So if you choke off the nerve supply or blood supply, then the shoulder isn't going to function correctly. And the most vulnerable muscle to that head being forward, and this is why forward head carriage. And this is why when you see this picture on the bottom, you're looking at normal and abnormal. And this is why my wife can't take me to the mall anymore. Because if I see somebody standing like this, that's normal. If I see somebody standing like this, that's totally not normal. So when you're seeing the back of the hands head forward, or as somebody even more badass, I know I look good like this. No, I'm actually shifting my weight over to one side, dropping the pelvis, repositioning my shoulder. This is pathology. When you're normal, you should be standing normal. So observation is the key. Just like Sherlock Holmes said, a lot of people look, but not many people see. So when we're looking at a normal, that humerus can start to function in the joint. If any of those muscles get weak, and typically it's going to begin with a compromised nerve supply from the neck, the shoulder doesn't fall out, it falls up because there's a massive deltoid. So here, people are fine. They can carry stuff all day long. But when they go like this or this, it's uncomfortable. And also, when you're looking really closely to identify a shoulder problem, normal range of motion is like this. And that means that my socket is functioning correctly. In an abnormal, where this labrum is not functioning correctly, it goes up and then down. So it goes up and then instead of just going up. And you'll see this in the mirror. So what we have to do, oh, and also, this is the most common dislocation. You can feel it getting funky. Oh, yeah. Oh, but man, what a difference between last week and this week. That's a world. Now, this is the most common dislocation, okay? And think of like a dog being pulled, okay, where it pulls down. So the most common is it dislocated from the scapula. Now, we have this process coming off the scapula that we see on x-ray. And you can literally tell if that humerus is too high, too low, or just right. No, that's not the three bears, okay? You know, mama bear, papa bear, baby was just right. Okay, yeah. So when we look at a superior distortion, which is the most common, that labrum is damaged at the top. Now, you've got a muscle here called the biceps. The biceps, one of the parts, bi means two, one of the parts is actually attached to the top part of the labrum. Okay, so if there is a distortion, you get distorted motion. And you can see if this dislocation is distorted at the bottom, it's going to be unstable. So this is why once you get a dislocation, you have to really correct and get this dealt with. And also, if you're sitting like on a desk, so if a desk is here, if you're driving, okay, where this is on the center console, okay, well, this would be center console if you're a passenger in America or you're a driver here. But that is going to be distorting this labrum. So we're going to show you a really quick exercise. Number one, you got to think about restoring the curve in your neck. And then we have to have enough pressure to pull it down. Now, Doctor, can I borrow you? Good. Okay, good. So how you're going to identify how much weight's needed. I'm going to grab his hand. I'm going to put his hand forward. Now squeeze my fingers, and I'm going to pull it down. Right there, the shoulder joint opens. So you can tell that he never goes to the gym. Okay, no. No, he's very solid. So, but that, yeah, would just sounded like wood, didn't it? But this right here means that he may need more weight than you would, okay, or you. So that's how you check. And then what you're going to do is, because the shoulder can be distorted, I don't recommend you handing a weight like this. So I recommend turning the palm, getting the weight in the hand, just like this. And this is 6 kilos, so about 12 pounds. And now his instructions are he's going to swing it butt to belly. That's it. And keeping his chin up. So this way, he's moving it correctly. And what you'll see is he's actually doing it correctly. And I don't want him to do it correctly. Because most of the time, people are going to be moving the shoulders like this. Okay, you demonstrated this on a bunch of people. Okay, so demonstrated and screwed up. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So when you have a shoulder damage, you move your whole body. Now this, you see his palms forward. So what that's doing, that's rotating the humerus in that socket. It's dropping it down. So now the labrum can start to form around it. And then you have your chin up. So he's restoring the blood supply and nerve supply to this. And that's fantastic. So how long should they need to do this? 5 minutes. 5 minutes? His hands aren't level?
Why shoulders don't be
When you look at, thank you, sir, good demonstration. Okay, when you look at all dominant shoulders, if you see one side's lower than the other, that's typically a dominant shoulder. That's why, like when you're in the movies, you know how you know who's the big spies? Okay, well, you know, a secret spy will say that person's right-handed, that person's left-handed. That's how they know the dominant shoulder is a little bit lower. Yeah, and so that's the most common. Good job, sir. So also the forearm muscle balance. So we have an imbalance. So what causes the shoulder issue? Compromised nerve supply, altered biomechanics is going to distort that labrum. But then also a muscle imbalance of the forearm can affect this. So this is why when you look at the forearm, you have muscles that close the hand, muscles that open the hand. Now it should be a 5-to-4 ratio, but we're not making fishing nets anymore. Okay, we're just grabbing the steering wheel, grabbing the briefcase, typing, okay? And that creates a muscle imbalance. So, and I bring these to Thailand because I can't find number 32 rubber bands. And so you put your hand like a flower bud, then make it into a claw. And you can do this. And when I demonstrate it, people will say, okay, I'll do it all the time. I think, yeah, that'll scare small children. You can do it behind your back. You can do it underneath, under the leg. You can do it all over the place. Just keep doing it, and you do it to fatigue. And then when you're done, do it some more, because that's going to correct carpal tunnel syndrome as long as you're correcting the cervical spine. It's going to correct the muscle imbalance. It'll correct golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, and help restore the curve in the neck, as well as stabilize the labrum. And then you've got bursa sacs. You've got sacs around all this. Now figure, muscles don't cross joints. And so every muscle that crosses this joint is crossing it with a tendon. And around every tendon is a sac called a bursa sac. So if your head is forward, you're choking off the blood supply and nerve supply to that. So why, when we're talking shoulders, do we check everybody's blood? Since every joint in your body, every finger joint, elbow, wrist, shoulder, everything is hydraulic. It needs fluid. And that fluid is a superfiltrate of blood. So do we check blood on everybody? Yeah, if those red blood cells are separate, everything's working right. If there's any chronic stress, they can overlap. If there's real stress, then they stack up, called a rouleau coin formation. So when you see something like this, you're looking at diffuse joint pain. Why? Because all the joints are desiccating or drying up. So health of the blood, nerve supply, and biomechanics, and then the body can regenerate. Does that make sense? And you create inflammation. Create inflammation is how the body regenerates. And that's why when you do have a shoulder problem, once you're restoring that curve or that nerve supply, we recommend moist heat on the shoulder because that's going to rush blood to the area. Now, any questions?
And it's the same thing that
Same thing with, and this is the cool thing. If there's a chronic injury, because some doctors will say ice will shrink the swelling. So if there's an acute injury, ice is appropriate, but only for the first 24 hours. And some great people will say ice and heat, and I don't recommend that. You use ice to shrink the swelling in the first 24 hours. After that, moist heat, because that's going to rush blood to the area, increase macrophage activity, and those are the cells that chew up any abnormal placed protein.
So what's a moist?
Like a hot wet. So a hot towel. So if you put a hot water heater on the stove, or a little kettle, put it on a towel, beautiful. If you have a microwave, use it only to heat towels. Don't put food in there. Okay, and then this labrum will absolutely stabilize. So when you're doing this, and you're going to see palms are going to be forward, and you're going to see most people are moving like this. Now, I'm not moving my shoulder at all. Other people will move it like this. I'm still not moving my shoulder. But in long-term shoulder injuries, this is what we see. So palm forward and butt to belly. You don't need to go all the way up, okay, because then you're going to recruit the muscles. But just butt to belly. Now, and this is going to be super easy, your chin up, but you have to have enough weight to open up that joint. And you're going to see if your body has been like this for a while, the turning the palms forward is one of the hardest parts, but this is absolutely essential. And if you do this before and after a workout, fantastic. If you restore the curve in your neck, fantastic. And then you're able to do it correctly. Okay? And if you have a smaller belly, do it less. Bigger belly, do it more. Because not everybody can have a good belly like this. Oh, so if you feel tightness in the neck, it means your whole body is tightening up. It means that it's an unusual activity for you. Because and this is super common with people that have had chronic injuries, they're not used to lifting weights. Okay? And so they're going to tighten up everything, and gritting and everything. Really? Okay. I guess I would do it. Okay, yeah, that's what happens because when we're used to lifting, we know how much effort we got to put forth. And if you've been injured for a long time, that's a really good point. If you've been injured for a long time, this is why we say no. You got to keep your chin up. Relax your shoulders because this is a ligamentous exercise, not a muscle exercise. Even so, just the arm is moving. You can look one side, you can look the other, look up at the ceiling, just look around, just try and relax as much as you can. And that you've tried the 6 kilo, which is about 12, 13 pounds, and it does open the joint, but it's too heavy. That's why I'm going to experiment. I'll pull the arm, and we'll see. You want to have enough to pull it down. But if that socket doesn't open, then it will be completely ineffective. So you have to have enough weight to open up that shoulder joint. Make sense? I know, it's really cool. Yeah, because you figure wrist, elbow, and shoulder injuries retire chiropractors. And I'm never retiring. God bless you. Cup and Krupp.